to Funding Fundamentals, CWELCC Cost-Based Funding Explained, the podcast where we demystify the Canada-wide early learning and childcare cost-based funding, one episode at a time. I'm Ashley McMillan, your host, here to guide you through the complexities of funding and what it all means for childcare providers. But here's the twist. Our special guests, who will help us demystify these topics, they aren't human, they are AI-generated voices with a knack for breaking things down, crushing the numbers, and maybe even throwing in a little digital wit. This limited series is here to make funding fundamentals clear. So let's decode CWELCC with the help of voices that never get tired. Let's hear from our special guests.
Okay, welcome everyone to this deep dive, and it's all focused on CWELCC funding.
That's right. And specifically, we're trying to unpack a piece of that funding model that, well, it seems to cause a bit of confusion sometimes. It's called the parental offset. So today, that's our mission. Let's really unpack what this offset actually is, how it gets calculated, and why it's, well, a totally planned part of the funding model. It's not a mistake. It's there by design.
Absolutely. And understanding these sort of core mechanics is crucial for anyone navigating these funding systems.
Yeah.
It's not about losing money. It's about how the overall investment in childcare actually works to balance affordability and provider support.
Okay, good point. Let's get right into it then. If someone's hearing parental offset for the very first time, what's the simplest way to explain it?
Great question. Basically, it's a reduction applied to your funding, but it's specifically accounting for the portion of fees that families already pay. Think about 2025, families are generally expected to contribute at least, say, $22 per day. That's the minimum benchmark. So the offset makes sure that public funding only covers the costs above what parents are paying.
Right.
It stops the same cost being paid for twice, once by the parent, once by the government. It prevents that double funding.
Okay, so it's like, if you're organizing a potluck and someone's already bringing the salad, you don't also buy salad ingredients with the group fund.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of logic. The government isn't paying for the part the family already covered.
That makes sense. So that's the what. But how is it actually calculated? What's the mechanics? Okay, there are essentially three main steps. First, they estimate your base fee revenue.
Right.
This is usually based on your estimated number of kids for 2025. They assume something like 90% operating capacity for center-based care.
Or active home seats, if it's home child care.
Exactly. Then second, that estimated revenue from parents, that becomes the offset amount. It's subtracted from your total cost-based funding allocation. And third, if you have spaces with mixed ages, some eligible, some not, they use a fair method to split the costs and the fee revenue. If you have 10 kids enrolled and families pay $22 a day each.
That's $220 a day.
Right, $220 per day in those parental contributions. So your overall government funding is then adjusted down to reflect that income already coming in. Stick with the 10 kids example.
Yeah.
A center's operating capacity is 10 kids. And their estimated capacity for, say, 2025 is also 10. If each family pays $20 a day...
That's $220 per day total for the center.
Exactly. $220 a day in parental contributions.
That amount is called the parental offset.
Yeah, the piece of their costs they expect parents' fees to cover.
Right. They keep that money. But here's the clever bit. As you said, Children's Services doesn't just subtract all that expected parent money from the funding.
No, not all of it.
They only deduct 90%.
Exactly, 90%.
So why? Why leave that 10%? What's the thinking there?
So that 10%, it's basically a buffer. It's deliberate.
A buffer what?
It's designed to account for, potential vacancies, fluctuations in enrollment day to day. Gives the centers a bit of a cushion.
Ah, okay. So it encourages them to keep enrollment high, but accepts reality too.
Exactly.
Okay, but what happens if things change during the year? Like, what if a center's actual enrollment, or the money they bring in from fees, is different from the estimate?
Good question. What if they bring in more money than expected?
Or less?
If they actually earn more from parent fees than they estimated, then the actual higher amount is used in the calculation, which is, good for them.
Okay. But what if they earn less? If enrollment dips?
If they earn less than expected, the original expected amount generally still applies in the calculation. Unless there were, specific unusual circumstances that need a review.
Okay. And it's important for you listening to remember, I think, that this cost-based funding model,
Mhm.
it's still pretty new.
Well, things like in-year adjustments,
Yeah.
how funding might shift if a center's situation changes mid-year,
Right.
and also year-end reconciliation. That's the final check, comparing the estimates to the actuals to make sure the funding was right. Those are still being developed. If there are changes to your operating capacity, reach out to Children's Services to discuss potential impacts and possible next steps. Now, does this apply the same way everywhere? What about the differences between home child care and center-based programs?
They aren't identical, are they?
No, they're not. And that's reflected in how the offset is estimated because, they have different fee structures, different operating models.
Makes sense.
So for home child care, the offset calculation is typically based on those active home seats, the designated spots. But for center-based care, it's usually based on operating spaces and often broken down by age group rates because infant care costs more than preschooler care, for instance.
It tries to mirror the actual revenue potential.
Exactly. It's designed to make sure the offset reflects the real money coming from families in that specific setting, making it fair across the board.
Okay, so we know what it is, how it's calculated. Why does it matter so much? Why is understanding this offset so important for providers?
Well, I think there are three main reasons. First, like you said, preventing double funding. It keeps the system honest, basically.
Integrity.
Second, it helps promote equity. Public money gets distributed more fairly, reflecting where the financial need actually is. And third, it supports affordability for families. It allows for those fee caps like the $22 a day target for 2025 while making sure providers still get funded for their actual costs minus that parental contribution.
Yeah, and I know the offset can sometimes feel like a complication or maybe even seem like less funding initially.
Right.
But truly, the efficiency and the integrity of the whole funding model rely on accurately accounting for that family contribution. It's not a loss, it's really just a logical adjustment. It ensures public funds go where they're most needed, which ultimately supports broader affordability and give providers a stable funding base.
Okay, let's do a quick recap then. The parental offset reflects that minimum $22 per day families contribute in 2025.
At least that much, yes.
It's based on your expected enrollment for the year ahead, and it's calculated slightly differently for home versus center-based care to match their operating realities.
Precisely. It's about accuracy.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up. We see these funding models constantly evolving, right?
Definitely.
So considering that constant change, what might be the next big innovation we see? What's the next step in balancing affordability for families with sustainability for providers in essential services like childcare? Something to mull over. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
That's it for this episode of Funding Fundamentals, CWELCC Explained. I hope you found today's discussion insightful and that it helps you navigate the complexities of Canada's early learning and childcare system with confidence. If you have any questions, thoughts, or topics you'd like us to explore, feel free to reach out. Stay tuned for more episodes where we'll continue breaking down funding in a way that's clear and accessible. Until next time, I'm Ashley McMullen, and thanks for listening.